Hey everyone, for those of you who have already joined in, thank you. Our live session will start at about 4, at sharp at 4 in just about a minute. So just hang on there. All right, so it's time to kick off then. Hello again, everyone. Thank you for joining in and welcome to the second virtual edition of Revenue Management Forum. I am Murphy Matthew from Ideas and I'll be your host for today. Yes, this is our second virtual event, but as some of you already know, we've been around for quite some time now. With a list of attendees that had registered in, I could see a lot of familiar names there as well. Those who have attended in person previously, while it was, let's say, as we call it, on site, pre-2020, right? If I may call it so. Now, for those of you who are attending for the first time, Revenue Management Forum, or RMF as we call it, fondly within our team and community here, has been on since 2015, right? This is our 7th year, lucky 7. We did start off with the objective of getting the tech team at Ideas closer to the hotel operations, people who generally and would rather actually be using the developed products that we put out into the market. Very quickly, we realized that there is hardly a forum in the region which was bringing the industry together. A community for knowledge sharing, best practices, you say it, you name it, and most importantly, right, without a sales pitch, and yet have all the players in the same room. Now, over the years, we've increased our reach considerably. We would like to believe so. To not just holding revenue forums, but also through thought leadership, closed room forums and industry, bringing the industry leaders together from across the country. So last few years, we've also stepped out of Pune and I've held forums in Delhi and Bombay as well, which some of you have already attended. Now, 2021, or let's say even 2020, right? It's been a year of learning. That's the way that I perceive it, right? Learning new ways to conduct business, new tools and processes for operations, and more importantly, a new vision from a leadership perspective. Our vision, if you would remove the reduced souls and the revenue content that we see now, obviously across the markets, across the globe, some have been lucky to see the green shoots and the recovery earlier than us. A vision, which we say would be potentially the one that many change leaders would have earlier thought of. Now, what I mean is that there are elements which have come to the fore recently and which we have seen as well. More importantly, strongly is the need to look beyond rooms, connecting revenue cultures across different silos, different departments within the organization, and not just that, but also making it easier from a guest experience perspective as well. And then identifying the true value of each guest and how it impacts your bottom line and top line as well from an operation perspective. And for all of the audience today, what it also means is that we can get leaders across the country and outside the country as well on the same platform for you to tune into without having to worry about getting stuck in traffic, the commute, and everything from the comfort of your own home or office, wherever you are in now. Like for a change, I am back in my office for today. And listen to those vision that I just briefly spoke about from these leaders themselves. So, what do we have in store for you today, right? So we've got the reset to restart, RMF as we call it, and we've got a distinguished set of industry leaders on the panel to share their thoughts. But before that, let me set up some house rules for you here. So if you've got questions or comments through the session today, use the Q&A button. I think it's on your far right corner top, on your right-hand corner there. We are keeping a close eye on our questions, our team here at the RMF, and we'll answer as many as we can. And for the ones that we've skipped due to time constraint, be assured that we will come back to you. If your questions are particularly directed to a individual panel member, feel free to call out that panel member as well as you type down your questions. Now, this meeting is being recorded, so it is obligatory for me to let you know that as well. If one of you, especially the panelist, be aware that whatever you say today is being recorded. And for those of you on the audience as well, be assured that we will share the recording with you. And for those of you who registered and possibly missed seeing this event live, we'll be sharing the recording with you as well. And last but not the least, we've got a hashtag RMF 2021. So if you want to chatter about the event, any feedback, any questions, any comments, as you hear from our panelists today, feel free to do that using the hashtag there. Right, so it's time to kick it off then. And who better than to then bring in our moderator. So our moderator today, let me introduce Karan Chawla, who will be moderating the panel today. He's a solution consultant from Ideas, working from the Asia Pacific region as well. And while I hand it over to him, again, a reminder to the audience, while you listen to all our panelists, feel free to use the Q&A button to ask the questions. So over to you now, Karan.
Thank you, Murphy, for that. And yes, a big welcome to our audience and our panel right here. So right off, let me introduce you to our panel before we begin. We've got Trishna. She has over a decade with Marriott International, managing various clusters in India. She has an experience of a variety of businesses, environments, and brands, where she leads the revenue management discipline for one of Marriott's largest clusters. So big welcome to Trishna. Welcome aboard. And this is her debut RM forum as well. So yay. We've got Karishma next. She's bringing us a wealth of experience in revenue management, spanning over 2 decades. She's recently moved into a specialized role comprising of finance and her original forte revenue management for a selection few of IHCL hotels in North India. So welcome aboard again, Karishma. And then we have Ram from Preferred, a seasoned business strategist, digital marketing and sales professional focused on revenue optimization with over 2 decades of experience. Ram frequently contributes to several regional and global publications in areas of marketing insights, pricing, revenue management, and yes, YouTube and LinkedIn as well. We've seen him very active there. So, yep, we know where to find Ram, if not on these forums here. And last and not the least, we have Ellie. She's been in the hospitality space for over 15 years. She's been an integral part of OTA Insight to drive the brand awareness, building relationships with key hospitality partners, working with local and regional hoteliers to enable and support a profitable revenue distribution strategy. And it is her debut on this forum as well. So a warm welcome to all you panelists right here. And yes, before we get on, Murphy pretty much summarized it pretty well. The recent past, I know it's always been COVID, but let's move away from that. The recent past has taught us we need to be flexible, adaptable, and we need something that is change is constant, right? We need to change fast if we need to survive. So having said that, my first question would really go out to Trishna. Change acceleration is what I would call it. But what were the changes that were long pending and now have been fast forwarded in your domain right now? What would you call that out to be?
I think, a couple of things that come to mind, and it's a great question, honestly. I think two things that come to mind. One is business continuity. That was key in the current situation, and we obviously needed to move a lot faster with what happened. So investment in digitization, investment in technology, the app that we're using right now for this call, and, like you rightly mentioned when we started the call as well, to get everybody together in spite of not being in the same room. I think that's something that moved really fast because that was the need of the hour. Simple things like meetings, strategy meetings, morning meetings, calls to update performances, etc., just moved to this platform, and that really helped overall sustainability of the business and sustainability of our processes. I think the second thing that comes to mind is alignment of operations, alignment of efficiency in the current situation, because obviously times were tough. A lot of right sizing and reorganization had to be done, ensuring that your day-to-day operations are not impacted as a result of that. I think is something that we had to fast forward tremendously in the current situation.
So, yep, what I would really take away is that yes, you're needed to really adapt the operational preparedness to accept what the new norm is, right? Nobody knows
Exactly.
what normalcy is, so I'm just going to call it the new norm, whenever that is defined. And yeah, so with the same question, I'll now move to Ellie, because Ellie, from a vendor front, right, from one vendor to another, change acceleration for you would be a very different terminology, because one shoe fits all is an approach that we'll have to take if you've got a broad spectrum of clients that you need to cater to, right? So what was it that was done at your end to accelerate or adapt to the changing times and the rules and regulations across the board?
Yes, well, actually, that is a good question. The first changes that we are actually facing here or seeing here, so you can imagine months of self-isolations and significant spending constraints that very quickly and dramatically change the consumer behavior. So we've seen a lot of staff redundancy and the furlough, especially in our industry last year. And it is completely normal for people to reduce their discretionary spending in times of economy uncertainty. So people and the company actually want to spend money, but more wisely and probably only on the necessary stuff at this moment. So we can safely say that business travel is going to take much more longer time to recover, and international leisure travel is going to be also very slow to return. So what we are witnessing from our own data is the domestic leisure demands are still in Asia Pacific. A lot of borders are closed. So another big change that we can also notice here is that customers embrace the digital accelerations. Actually, Trishna just mentioned briefly, but I cannot really agree on this points more, because the consumers are actually increasing their comfort with the technology, but also they are actually open to the new technology for the hotel organizations. So we actually start seeing a lot of self check-ins and self checkouts and touchless payments, and also app-based services, and of course, not to mention cloud-based business intelligence tools in the market as well. And the third thing we are also noticing here is that, the customers also wants to have a really additional health and safety measures. It's not only from their own government's regulations, but customers themselves actually tend to care a lot more about their well-being in general. So we are actually seeing a lot of people are seeking more sustainable and the environment-friendly style to hotel to stay. So I personally believe, all those changes has been coming for a long time. So hotels actually really must manage those expectations now, and they recognize that they will only continue to evolve and prepare to, act very agilely and fast, to address those changes.
Absolutely. So you would agree when we would say that the current situation has brought us to fast forward ourselves in terms of technology and the changes that were in the pipeline to be brought forward and to be implemented now, rather than the near future or the extended future.
That's correct.
Absolutely. And now moving on. So we know, yes, the recent past, and no better than Karishma to be put on the spot here, given her finance and revenue role right here. So Karishma, given the recent past, is rooms the only avenue to look into? I know no, because you're looking further. And is there a vision to incorporate revenue management into the other verticals that you're looking into? And what are the challenges or the quick wins in this regard that you would see?
Okay, so Karan, firstly, I just want to thank you and the Ideas team for putting together yet another forum this year. I think it's a fabulous way for all of us to connect and put our heads together and kind of do some crystal ball gazing, as I call it, all together. So I think it's a very important point that you've raised, that rooms, in terms of the contribution to the overall revenue for any hotel, and I'm kind of talking more from an India market perspective. The contribution of rooms has significantly come down in the last 2 years. And of course, it's been accelerated because of the pandemic. And the interesting thing to note is that, the rooms, as even Ellie was saying, it's really the leisure travel that's moving right now. Corporate travel is going to take a while to come back. And a lot of the hotels in India are, more in the cities. So therefore, very, very dependent on corporate travel. And if I look at some of our key source markets like UK, okay, they've reached a vaccination percentage of 72. US is at 66% right now. So it is going to be a while, apart from the business type, it's also going to be the extent of vaccination that's going to determine, the future of travel back into our hotels and therefore the room revenue aspect of our business. So therefore, I think what has emerged as a big winner in the last 1.5 years is F&B in a big, big way. I think thanks to the F&B streams, we're all surviving and we're all here today. And I think even my colleagues around the table, all the other hotel companies, and other fellow colleagues who are part of the audience, all of the hotel chains have experimented to a greater or lesser extent with food delivery. It's been a very successful model. If I look at the Marriott on Wheels, or if I look at the Cumin as far as IHCL goes. So I think these are some strategies which are here to stay for good. And increasingly, we've all put on our thinking caps. So we're all focusing outside F&B also. We're trying to maximize every square foot of real estate in our hotels. So whether it is by renting out spaces or building out ancillary revenues from in-house guests or looking at in-house promotions, etc., maximizing spend per guest. I think that is the next, target that we need to aim for. And I think there's a huge need to build some, I would say reporting metrics are there, but maybe systems which support that kind of reporting. That is the immediate need of the hour going forward.
Absolutely. And I'll hold that thought on the reporting piece because I have a couple of more questions that I will come down to.
Sure.
And it's around BI tools. But yes, what I have also seen in the recent past, and it was actually quite innovative, I would say. There's vaccine tourism that's come along. Then there's this term that's been coined as pent up demand because of people being indoors and now they get a chance to step out. So there's that. And I'd also seen one of the brands put out hoardings and advertisements of, okay, you've got your shot today, you need to rest, come stay with us for 9 hours. We'll give you 3 meals and a peaceful sleep while you recover from your first dose. So there's been all of these marketing strategies that's been doing the rounds to try and get people indoors. But at the same time, they're also trying to make the customers and our guests feel safe, right? Because that's another question that's on everyone's mind, as Ali said, is, are people comfortable to step out and step into a new into a new atmosphere outside their home environment, right? Given the current pandemic. And with that, back to Ellie, is the industry in general looking for intelligence or intel on revenue metrics apart from rooms? Are you seeing technology partners with a vision to fold in other data as well? Because this folds into Karishma's reporting questions as well.
Yeah, so actually, that's a very interesting question here. So Well, as Krishna mentions just now, I believe the industry has been talking about the beyond, guest room revenue for decades. So those are total revenue management strategy has been extensively actually talked about, and pandemic has a kind of a forced hoteliers to think very differently about the hotel and the building, moving away from predefined space uses to a more flexible, need-based the model. So again, we have actually seen a lot of guest rooms are actually being sold as office space or function room as a yoga or fitness studio, etc. So subsequently, the hotels are looking for the BI that can provide holistic data points and the approach, not only analyzing the room revenues here. So as a BI partners, so we are also innovating and continuously actually developing new enhancements based on these customer features. So you can actually see, there are BI tools or RMFs available in the market that provide ancillary revenue analysis and capturing any other data trends at this moment. So for example, at OTA Insights, a lot of our partners reported that more than 50% of their bookings are for the same date, which is a huge increase, about a 40 to 50% increase versus in the past. And we are also actually seeing that up to 25% of the same date rate changes based on the hourly basis. And also another huge trend that I want to highlight here, we are seeing huge use or new uses of pre-booking data instead of post-booking data here, such as flight searches and the hotel searches, etc. So if you actually look at big corporations like Google's or Amazon's, they utilize those search volumes and patterns to identify where the future demand is really coming from. So in a similar way, the BI partners also utilize millions of digital footprint of your potential clients to provide and then predict the real-time forward-looking demand to help hoteliers to catch those early demand ahead of the competition, and as well as be equipped with a better strategy.
Thank you. So, yep, everything's evolving. I know booking dates are now really closer to day of arrival as compared to even the 7 to 10 day lead period now looks very long to the 1 and 2 days that you just mentioned on the day of arrival. 1 day prior to arrival is what people are really looking for. And keeping that in mind now, I'll turn to Ram. And Ram, from a sales, marketing, and distribution strategy point of view, what are the strategic changes to these verticals and the approach for generating demand, right? We've got staycations, we've got work from hotels. So what is it that you do or you can think of or you can share any tips on the approach of generating more demand across these verticals?
Thanks again. Before I start off, once again, guys, thank you so much for inviting me. Feels good to be the only guy or the only man amongst the ladies out here. So I'll man up and try to answer as much of questions as possible. I think now we know about diversity, right? Men are unfortunately underrepresented in the revenue community. I can see that. Thank you so much. So yeah, I mean, look, I think one thing, I mean, we've all been talking about this. I mean, you would have heard me make this statement multiple times in the previous forums as well, that what, we need to bridge the silos between revenue, between marketing, between sales, etc. And I think, I mean, COVID has definitely brought that into it. It's kind of erased the lines between all these three departments. It's no longer a marketing team strategy, revenue team strategy, or a sales team strategy. I think it's a commercial strategy that hotels are working on, and it is one strategy where everybody needs to join their hands together. And and I think technology And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of more questions, on this particular thing. And Ellie is a great insight in terms of technology, but I'm sure that technology is going to play a big role out there. And we got people like Karishma taking care of overall finance. So, as revenue managers, we should actually be more of an asset optimizer as well, because like she made a point, Rooms is not driving the volumes. And that has unfortunately been the area most revenue managers have been focusing on. So I think as these three teams, from managing demand, which is what we all used to do, and which is what we actually used to do with, revenue tools such as Ideas. We used to manage demand and optimize demand. We've actually reached into a stage where I think we are trying to see how to create demand, because there is too many ancillary criteria or external factors which is influencing our strategies every day. So I think what is very important is we need to know what is the target audience which is traveling today at this point of time. The target audience traveling today would not be the target audience which is traveling maybe 1 month from now, when possibly situation could be way more better thanks to the rising vaccination rate in the country. I mean, in the last 11 days, I read that there is at least 3 days where we crossed 1 crore, which is 10 million in international numbers, vaccinations per day. That is almost vaccinating some smaller countries every day, right? So we're doing some fantastic pace out there, and I believe that it is going to move forward. But speaking of today's date and time, I think it's very important to not just review pricing, but review your content and your positioning based on the target audience which is traveling. If it is a leisure audience traveling, a business traveler package is not going to cut the cake, right? Get your leisure packages in place. And I think very important from a sales marketing strategy that, what guys, let's not fight on discounts. Let's actually sell the value, because I mean, if we are fighting on discounting, I think it's a never ending race to the bottom. It's I mean, I'm going to cut because you're cutting, you're going to cut because I'm cutting. And I think data is playing a more and more important role out here. I guess very important for us to understand there is business travel happening. I mean, a lot of us are seeing some kind of business conferences or business domestic travel happening. But I think what is important for us to understand is how can we get that one additional night from the traveler traveling? We talk about leisure, right? Traveling for business and leisure. So is there a way to optimize that one extra night, because every extra night would count out there? And of course, flexible policies, showcasing your health and safety features. And I think one important thing which Ellie also made a statement is, I think ancillary data is going to play a very important role for us to set our strategy. One is, of course, the things like flight data, etc., which is available from partners such as OTA Insight. But I also think that, there are some data like Google Search Insights, that tells you very well how is the search trend developing for your city at this point of time. And if somebody is searching for today, then he or she is planning to stay with you in 2 weeks, 3 weeks time, right? Because that is the first search point that is happening, or could even be next week. So that kind of helps you start to make your first step towards the pricing decision. Where should the prices be for that window if suddenly you're seeing a spike in searches happening? So yeah, I think ancillary data and forward-looking data is very important for us to look at when it comes to putting our strategies in place.
Absolutely, and I would just like to throw this term out. A synonym to that would be total revenue management, something that we've definitely spoken a lot over the last decade. And I can see a smile on Ram's face, is because we always bring this topic up. And I will park that for now, though, and I will come back to that. But there's another thing that I really liked what you said, Ram. It's about all of us coming together and not undercutting each other, right? Because that just becomes a bad marketplace altogether. And there was also studies that shown that there isn't enough demand for you to really undercut. So there comes a price point that even if you lower your price point, you aren't really going to generate more demand, because there isn't more demand just by a price point. There have to be innovative ways to really generate and bring those people in, like you said, right? Staycations, safer stays, so on and so forth. Now, there's another thing, having said that, is generation of demand and undercutting prices. Another thing that can really save money is the transition from channels to direct, right? And I'd bring Trishna onto this now. Is it sustainable, the increase in direct channels that we have right now? And are there any outliers or impacts regionally or brand centric that you would like to call out?
Yeah, I mean, I think just based on what my co-panelists have just said, I think direct channels is an indication of loyalty. The fact that someone is choosing you through your direct channel just goes to show that they see value in what you've got to offer to them, rather than going through a third-party website or going through some other channel. Loyalty is synonymous to sustainability, because at the end of the day, you know that the customer is going to keep coming back to you over and over again because they see value in what you've got to offer to them. I think leisure business tends to be slightly less loyal as compared to corporate business, because when you're traveling so often for corporate business, you want to make sure that you're going to the hotel where you're well taken care of. So as a company, for example, at Marriott, we make sure that we're putting in all our effort into direct channels rather than the other channels, because we know that that's sustainable. We know that that's long term. And we know for a fact that those customers are going to keep coming back to us over and over again. What I feel is that popular destinations, well-established brands, luxury hotels are possibly going to see a lot more benefit from direct channels in the shorter term as compared to the other hotels, because they've got that stand, they're well grounded in the current situation as well, pre-pandemic as well as post-pandemic, and that's going to be beneficial for them.
And the perfect timing to really bring about loyalty strategy, because that was my absolute next question on loyalty strategy. And I'll move this back to Ram. Ram, what are your thoughts on this segment and its value considering the current scenario and factor the customer behavior in general in the recent years?
I mean, loyalty has actually been, there's been a lot of chatter around loyalty, right? Especially in the post-COVID era. I mean, there's a lot of statements about loyalty. Is loyalty as a program diminishing? Is the value diminishing post-COVID? Because there's talks like, hey, millennials are not loyal, Gen Z is not loyal. There's a lot of statements like that. I mean, I'm a believer of the fact that, look, loyalty programs are grossly underestimated. I mean, the reality is loyalty actually powers many a brand business. I mean, Marriott, for example, you would see more of Bonvoy ads than actually a Marriott ad running out there, because it is the Bonvoy is the one that is driving the entire program out there. I mean, if you look at simple things like, I'm just going to pick up a couple of random examples, like, American Airlines, the brand value is supposedly $6.5 billion. Okay, their loyalty program is valued at around about 24 billion. Okay, that's 4 times. I mean, jet privilege, tanked. I mean, we all know that the flight, the company tanked, but hey, jet privilege still continues to run despite Jet Airways not running there in the form of maybe intermiles. But you know what? There was a value of that loyalty program. So I think we all need to understand and appreciate what loyalty brings. Consumers are loyal to hotels, definitely not loyal to channels. So if your direct channel unfortunately does not offer the best value or the price, then of course they'll go through an OTA, which is where I think OTAs are also capitalizing on loyalty programs. Booking Genius, Expedia Rewards, MMT Black. All of these are loyalty programs that is there on the other side of the market, for customers to look at. So it is important because your loyalty program does not just compete against other hotels, it also competes against other service providers like OTAs. So important that direct channels are the most effective ones. And I think loyalty offers us to do a lot of great closed group member offers, special deals that you might not want to, you might want to just give it to your loyal members. Showcasing it with more flexible policies. It's a great time to do point redemption specials. We are already working on some for I Prefer, which is the loyalty program that we have, some great redemption specials, which can help to show loyalty value. I think another great opportunity is total revenue management on loyalty. Why give loyalty points only for rooms when F&B is driving in more revenues? And giving loyalty points on F&B can actually drive more from the local market. If people are coming to eat at your restaurant, that is revenue that is going into your bottom line. Again, with that's something we already have in the loyalty program at Preferred Hotels. Because I Prefer allows hotels to have that flexibility to offer points even for ancillary services. So I think that will, of course, add up to your favorite topic, which is total revenue management, but we can put a royalty spin on it. And
Absolutely.
of course, I think last but most important is ultimately the purpose of the lifetime value of a customer, right? Is loyalty, because that kind of turns that first buyer into a regular buyer, into finally a brand ambassador who can influence more buyers, So that's exactly why I think we need it, because there is a lot of people, who are surviving on brand loyalty within the industry or outside the industry. Apple is a great product. I'm a proponent of it. I was an anti-Apple guy until 5 years back, but today I swear by that ecosystem, right? So loyalty is just not around, I think, a program, but it's also around what you offer to your customers and how well you can retain your customers.
Absolutely. And
Yeah,
so
and I think the conversation is so interesting that I would like to just chip in here. Ram, you did mention about Gen Z, while I'm still not of the Gen Z, right? A bit earlier. But I think you're very correct in terms of the misconception, because while we talk about Gen Z not being so much loyalist with a brand, but you look at, let's say, Booking.com, Expedia, right? That is also called being loyalist, right? If they are
Yes.
booking through one of those channels, that is exactly a loyalist pattern that you're trying to tap onto these. In fact, I've also heard from a lot of leading organizations about them thinking about a vision about subscription models, right? Again, Gen Z is so much so into subscription. You look at Netflix, you look at one of those either items, right? They're all into the subscription model. So, another important element there. And the last bit that I would again talk about is yesterday I was just browsing through for some hotels for one of my stays here, and what did I see? There was an option to pay through crypto as well, right? Which is a bit of technology plus creating a loyalist brand there itself, right? You pay through crypto, your money grows, you stay loyal to that brand as well. So yeah, I'm sure Karen will come up to the total optimization bit, where a lot of organizations across the globe are also thinking about, how do we optimize the redemption patterns that we see and the inquiries that come through as well. So yeah, back to you, Karen there. Sorry.
Thank you, Murphy. So I was actually going to bring up the same point when you were talking about loyalty programs looking at revenue spend rather than revenue nights. And my mind was, why not subscription, right? Have a subscription model that guarantees you an X percentage of discount on every spend, rather than you spending an X amount to get to that tier to be eligible for the discount. So that and that is where Gen Z and today's generation really looks after it. If I have to spend it, I'll be like, why not just take a subscription, get my pennies worth, and then move away or retained. So that's how I would look at it. And yes, I'm a little different from Murphy's generation. And yeah. So moving on. So this is now more towards Karishma, right? Sustainability of new strategies. What are the challenges on getting approvals or implementing new strategies? Has this been easier in the current situation, or is this the way it was pre-COVID?
So Karan, I think it's never been easier than the current situation, because the current situation actually brought us literally to ground zero. And from ground zero, the only way you can move is up. So I think the way, and I think Trishna and Eddie both sort of pointed this out, that, the lines are blurring between main functions, revenue, sales, operations. We're all actually just one team now. And the last 1.5 years has been, just outstanding, because we've all worked together in different cross-functional teams, trying to put our heads together. How do we get more revenue? How do we save costs? How do we optimize our hotel assets? What else can we do? So just go beyond the traditional hospitality thinking that we had. And it's really been a groundbreaking 1.5 years. And we've actually done, if I may say, we've been like fail fast, fail furious. We tried something new every month, and we would see the success. If it's working, continue. If not, disconnect, move on, bring up something else. It was a hugely innovative year for all of us, I think, across the industry, and of course in IHCL as well. Experimented with lots and lots of different promotions, etc. And I think some of the, what my co-panelists also been saying, some of the things are here for good, like technology and the way it's changed our lives, it's here for good. Staycations, here for good. Your focus on health, immunity, building, all of that, here for good. Hygiene, here for good. So suddenly there are these new things that actually define the future of travel. And I think that is what is sustainable going forward. The other bit I would say is that flexibility is not just come in thinking, but in every aspect of our business. So a lot of us completely changed our cancellation policies, our booking patterns, some of the way we do contracts, etc. So that was a new and a very refreshing twist that came in the last 1.5 years.
Absolutely, and I'll stick on to one point that you said, right? Fail fast and fail furious. I'll spin it off as success or fail fast endeavors. And back to Ram now. Okay, innovative market approaches to counter the reduced travel that's happening, and then obviously engaged in more revenue management outside the rooms domain, right? Because of the reduced room revenue. What are your thoughts, or what are your thoughts on the endeavors here for fail fast towards these verticals?
Fail fast, fail furious reminds me of my favorite series, Fast and Furious. So yeah, I mean, look, it is. I mean, literally, we are all out there. Okay, it's fast and furious in our lives. I mean, we are all fighting that battle where each of us are, moving on from one battle to another. Literally, fighting one day to another. We are all living that day and moving on to live the other one. So I think what's very important is, again, if I just like everyone said, I think in today's time, if you don't adopt tech, okay, it's a perfect recipe for failing spectacularly. Okay, because without tech, without data, okay, all we are making is decisions based on guesswork, and how effective that decision is as good as your guess or mine. Okay, I mean, it's just you're just shooting in the dark and hopefully hitting that, hoping that you're hitting the target and not your friend. So yeah, it's very important to use data. I think again, like I think everyone said out here, ancillary revenues is very important as a channel for us. And when I mean ancillary revenues, I mean F&B, I mean banqueting, conferencing, even monetizing your rooms. Okay, in any way or the other, monetizing any of your current assets out there in the hotel, because the higher your ancillary revenue opportunities, that kind of defines your overall pricing hold. Because if you do not have a ancillary revenue model, you kind of dependent on rooms, and then that's when panic sets in, right? That's when you start dropping price. But when you know that there is an ancillary revenue source, you are able to kind of sustain your pricing and your market position. So it's kind of very important from that point of view itself to adopt ancillary revenue model out there. I think a lot of hotels are doing some very creative stuff on how they're using hotel spaces for ancillary revenue opportunities. I know that everyone, I mean, almost everybody in this panel, including me, and I would say most of the listeners out here, already have the work from hotel strategy. Okay, I think that is unfortunately, in my opinion, beaten to death strategy, because everyone seems to have hopped on the bandwagon, and guests are somewhere starting to realize that, hey, what's the difference between working from home and a hotel? Yeah, it was good at one point of time to get away from the four walls of your house, but then you're stuck within the four walls of the hotel, right? So I think, but there are a lot of other innovative stuffs happening. Hotels are using suites as private dining experiences. I think that's a great way to monetize your rooms, which are getting unsold. Some of the hotels have been monetizing housekeeping and laundry services during the times when people wanted it because of the fear of this thing, and we had qualified housekeepers sitting out there. Prepaid vouchers was, I mean, I didn't see that happening much in our country, but prepaid voucher sale was actually big in many parts of the world. There were actually a lot of providers who were going in prepaid vouchers, and which gave the hotel some cash, which was very critical to keep the cash flow running at this point of time. Plus, there's a lot of innovations that I've seen actually. I saw one of the hotels, I think it was a Marriott hotel in Kochi or something, where they turned around and said that, hey, you know what, they were kind of monetizing their services on dining etiquettes and sales strategy. There was another hotel, I think again it was in Kerala, interestingly, which actually converted their swimming pool into a fishing farm. the swimming pool was shut for a year. You might as well make money from it, and they kind of made a lot of money from it. Now, I mean, these are innovation. This is literally outside the box thinking, right? And I think that is exactly where many of us kind of fail, because I think we are still running behind the same bandwagon out there. And I think the best way for us to understand is when we start looking at not just the big boys, but there are actually a lot of smaller boys who are doing it. Partnership with schools, partnership with maybe education providers to kind of keep the kids engaged when they are on travel. If I know that there is something that's happening to keep my kids engaged, okay, they are big now. Like some of you might know my kids on my YouTube videos. But yeah, I mean, but if when they were little, if I was traveling, if there was something to take care of them, not the kids club, but also to kind of ensure that they get some kind of in-person schooling, because that's again something you're missing, I might extend it by another couple of days, my vacation. So these are the kind of things I think which we need to start looking at personally from a service point of view. And of course, from a technology point of view, it's very important to invest in the right kind of technology, which kind of I'm sure we're going to talk a lot about technology somewhere down the line. So I think I'll reserve my comments out there.
Absolutely. And this is where I guess asset management comes in, right? Making use of every inch or square inch of your property to get in money, right? And a perfect example was the swimming pool turned into a fishing farm, which is absolutely outside the box and innovative. And I think that can only happen is when you close your eyes towards rooms and say, I'm not going to look at rooms. Let me see what else do I have in my hotel or my property that can make me money. And that's where such ideas will really come in. And taking on from that is, I'd move to Ellie. Ellie, what about destination marketing, right? Your thoughts on the assistance from the administration, say state governments, to provide an impetus to travel or revenue? Any positives or drawbacks that you'd like to point out on this?
Sure. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, that's good. No, Karen, that's a really good question. Actually, there's no doubt that government's initiative to boost or support the hospitality industry in a difficult time is necessary, and there has been a great help. But I personally actually feel that it has to be in a sustainable manner. So, for example, Singapore government actually spent more than $320 million last year to drive local spending in hotels, shops, and the local attractions. So we definitely actually helped hospitality industries to survive during this difficult time. But I believe those fundamental challenges like a shortage of talent still remains in the industry. And also, I have seen, Japanese government actually launched those go to travel program last year to support the tourism industry. So it is actually quite a lot of money, up to 20,000 yen in aid per person per night of stay. So our data actually showed that, uplift in the hotel's occupancy in some of the past or very popular domestic countries or cities. However, there's a program has been put on hold since December because, again, increasing COVID cases. And some of the experts actually believe that, the virus has been spread a lot more widely because of the program. So again, back to your question, it is absolutely necessary. In difficult times, we actually need kind of any aid or help from all different angles. But there's a state administration and governments, if they can actually consider a lot more long-term, sustainable vision and aid, then it's going to be a really, really great help for the industry.
Absolutely, yep. We need to be partnered with them.
I just wanted to add to what Ellie said. In fact, and I have two examples one from India. Kerala, in fact, just launched about a month ago a biobubble model. Obviously Kerala has a lot of contribution from tourism, and it impacted their state GDP as well, and that's the reason why they came up with this. But I think, just like Ellie mentioned, I think it needs to be long-term and sustainable, because execution is key, and timing is key, because they did it right before Onam, and now you can see that the overall impact of both of these events clubbed together have possibly caused the rise in cases. Then there's Phuket's sandbox model that they came up with, where you basically do a 14-day quarantine. No substantial results as yet. They've said that if you've got your vaccination, you can do a 14-day quarantine and then you can move about anywhere you want. So essentially, you're staying there for 14 days. It's an indirect quarantine, but they've got the money coming in because of increased tourism. But I think, like I said, I think it's sustainability, long-term vision, timing, and execution is very, very critical in this. Because if it's not done with all of that in mind, it's obviously going to be a failure. The good thing is that there is an initiative, there is an interest from state governments and various countries to do this, which does help us in the long term. And there's a lot of learning. The important thing is that that learning needs to be implemented the next time something like this is done.
Absolutely. And yes, the bubble does sound very innovative in terms of ensuring the safety and the precautions, but I believe the whole 14 days quarantine, informal or formal, is a very big deterrent for anyone to travel, right? If I have to travel to a place and I'm supposed to be 14 days quarantined and then I begin my holiday, I rather not travel if that were left up to me. So I think we yet need to look at ways that are approved to try and work around the 14 days. I know that's what the government's laid out, but then yes, that is another area that hotels can really look at generating if they find a way around creating a secure bio bubble without the quarantine. Hopefully it's there somewhere in the foreseeable future, but for now I think the bubble will have to do with the 14 days quarantine. And now with all of these strategies and the bio bubbles that we spoke about, the safety and the hygiene, it brings me to brand management, right? And I see Karishma sitting there with the strongest brand Taj right at the back. So I'm gonna pose this question to her, right? Has the brand identity remained same, or has the lines blurred, particularly when you may have multiple brands in the city? Now, for Taj, I wouldn't say there's been any reduction with them being the best branded organization, but then yes, do you see the lines being blurred with multiple brands of the same company in the same city?
So Karan, firstly, thank you. I think it was a real privilege for us to win this particular honor in this year, being the world's strongest hotel brand. And I think it speaks volumes for the power of the brand. I think what's happened is that, there's been a trend whereby the brand that you trust, you have trusted it even more in the last 1.5 years, And I think there are some brands that have really stood out during the last 1.5 years. They really emerged much, much stronger, sharper. The brand is, it stands for, let's say, for example, the Taj brand. It doesn't just stand for just luxury or warmth. It's also standing for resilience, for trust, for safety, hygiene. We put this motto out there, Tajless, a commitment re-strengthened, ever since we built our protocols, towards managing the COVID situation. So I think that's resonated very beautifully. I would say it's resonated globally. And to answer your question, I think brand definitions actually sharpened in a customer's mind what a certain brand stands for. Suddenly there are more attributes that have come to be associated with a brand. And I would say that we've also, as IHCL, there's certain brands we've been expanding even during the pandemic. The Ginger, for example, we've literally stuck to the plan of opening up 1 hotel a month, and that's gone off really, really well. And I would say it's time to reinforce brand strength, and also if I put a revenue management hat on it, also to capitalize on it. It's a very good time to put a premium on your brand, to really, really get your brand's worth. That's really, really important.
Absolutely, absolutely. And especially if you have the tag, the world's strongest brand, why not, right? So yes, and I'll probably ask the same question to Trishna as well, because I know she's at least taking care of 10 brands in the Bangalore market, right? So how does that fare on your day-to-day plate, right? Do you find that, yes, there's a blur between 2 of your Marriotts? And I also know one thing is, and within Marriott's, you can't really look at your own sister hotel as a competition, right? So that may be making it even more difficult from external data points to see, if I have all my hotels across are my sister hotels, what do I have as competition then?
So, the last part I'm going to answer in two ways. For me, they're all under one bucket. For every hotel, irrespective of whether it's part of Marriott or not, their competition, right? In the current situation, I think everyone is fighting for themselves, and rightly so. But just like Karishma mentioned, from my perspective, I need to ensure that that distinction exists. From a rate perspective, and we need to ensure that we are able to maximize revenue. I think there's a lot more that comes with brand. It's a unique identity. And I don't think that COVID has necessarily blurred those lines, because there's a lot of work between sales, revenue management, marketing that has gone into creating that unique identity for a brand. So although we've had a lot of acute competition, there have been overlapping in rates, with some business segments. Maybe customers to a certain extent may not necessarily understand the distinction between brands. We've been able to maintain that parity and maintain that distinction through the combined effort of all of the stakeholders. So I don't see that much of a competition here. I think brands that used to piggyback on very well-established hotel brands have probably taken a little bit of a beating, because they don't have anything to piggyback on now, because everyone is alone in this in the game. But I don't think that unique distinction has got washed away.
Okay, fair enough. So yep, each one to their own is what the theme looks like for now. And talking about competitive landscape, right? So Ram, the changes and challenges in the recent times, your recommendation of how to use them strategically.
Sorry. Yep. I mean, yeah, I guess we are in a new era, right? I mean, there's nothing else. I mean, the new normal has been there with us for the past 18 months. It's time to accept it as the normal now. It's no longer the new normal. It is the normal now. We got to move on and hopefully create a new normal where we go back to 2019. Okay, that is going to be my new normal. Okay, but the reality also is that when that happens, there is going to be a lot of change. Business is not going to be the way we saw it, because today's virtual communication has taken away, did exist, I mean, I keep telling my kids this, guys, you know what, had this COVID happened when I was a kid, I don't know what would happen, I mean, how would I have attended school? I might have literally lost 2 years of my life, there was no online thing, if you go back to, I don't want to tell my age, but then yeah, if you go back, even if you go back 15 years, you are in a time where we did not have this bandwidth connectivity. Go up to the dial-up internet. I mean, we have, some of us have seen that. Some of you young guys like maybe Murphy, I don't know if you know what dial-up connection is. Yeah, but then yeah, I mean, moving on to this, I guess, yeah, go ahead. Yeah,
No,
so
no,
I
no.
think.
Go ahead, sorry.
So going on to this changing tech landscape, I think, look, it's a oft-repeated statement. Data is the new oil, right? But then, guys, I mean, data is the new oil only when you know where to dig for it. Otherwise, data is just junk. Okay, you better know what to do with the data that you have in it, and then you can, of course, mint it. I mean, I could talk for hours, maybe on companies how they use data, but I guess it's very important to understand the data that we have and what is it that we can do with that data. There's a lot of stories that data sell, and I think we need to understand it. And I think that is exactly where accepting technology comes into place. And I think COVID has actually accelerated. I know. Like the fancy term to use for a digital transformation, COVID has actually accelerated it across industries and organizations. And I think cloud-based business solutions, I think, is the new norm, because there's a lot of work from home happening, or hybrid work models that is happening. And hybrid work models is definitely the short to midterm future for sure. So, cloud-based solutions are going to be the need, and it's very important when we are looking at adapting technology out there in this changing business models. And at the same time, while we speak a lot around technology, it's very important to recognize the human factor, because ultimately it's very important to understand that you have the right team to drive it, and not just the right team, but they're well trained to understand the tools, because a lot of us as hoteliers end up blaming the tools. for the failures. And you know what? And that basically happens because there's no one controlling. It's like having a Ferrari and driving it at 60 kilometers and saying what a slow car this is, right? So that's exactly what, unfortunately, a lot of this is there. It's also in this changed business environment. When we look at technology, we need to understand that technology comes at a cost. Okay, there is a cost, and you pay for product. I mean, if you're looking for 4 wheels and a steering wheel, well, you could get a hatchback from Maruti, or you could get a Ferrari. I mean, they do the same work, right? They got 4 wheels, they got a steering wheel, they take you from point A to point B. But how do you want to go? You know, in what kind of how easily do you want to reach out there? Okay, and how important is safety and security to you? That's what differentiates the two drives out there, right? And I think that's the same thing when it comes to technology. I mean, it's very important to understand your needs, your requirement, your business model, and how well that that piece of technology talks to your ecosystem. Because having a standalone technology which doesn't talk to any of your tool makes no sense. I mean, for the sake of discussion, I'm going to say you might want to implement ideas. Okay, but hey, if you have an archaic PMS which doesn't convey any information to ideas, you can't blame ideas for the failure of the model out there. You know, I'm just using that example out there. So yes, it's very important to kind of build in data analytics and business intelligence tools. We have a lot of people on this call who can talk around that. But yeah, I mean, use that to map your pickup trends, you know, rather than just relying on good old guesswork. And technology needs to be there because it kind of helps you make more faster and reliable decisions, you know, towards your go-to-market strategies. You know, the way I tell people is, you know, you are currently playing a T20 match. Okay, maybe Ellie won't understand what I'm saying. Okay, that's a game called cricket, which is a religion in this part of the in this part of the world. But yeah, you're literally playing a T20 match. Okay, every over, you know, you're going to have those 4 overs of Rashid Khan where maybe you can't hit a run, but then you better optimize that other 16 overs. And we are going to see that. We are going to have blocks where there is going to be restrictions. And even if you end up selling your room at 1 rupee, people aren't going to come and stay with you. Okay, that doesn't mean you're going to drop your rates there. But at the same time, like today, you know, I know hotels in the leisure market, and some of them belong to the strongest brand in the country or in the world, Karishma. Where, you know, it's currently selling at 40,000 bucks a night.
The world.
You know, and those are special rates.
In case you missed it.
So yeah, I mean, look, there is money in the market. Let's, I mean, but it's very important to understand the right strategies to sell it, and you got to be extremely nimble on your feet, because there isn't much time to sit, think, follow through a approval process before you do it. You got to be extremely nimble to capitalize on that demand at that point of time, I think.
Absolutely. So yeah, what three things that really struck me is A, we need to be agile, right? B was, I don't think so, the phrase that you used, right? Data is the new oil cannot be truer in today's data time, right? Data is everything. It can either take you upwards or down the drains, depending on how you use it. But what really stuck with me is when you said there are people who are willing to invest in technology now, but I do know that, say, 5 years ago, it's as recent as 5 years ago, there were many owners and boards and directors who would shy away, who had this thought that if I am spending on technology, I am replacing the human element of it. So, for example, if I'm putting in a revenue management system, I don't need a revenue manager. But that brings me to your conversation of you've bought a Ferrari, but learn how to drive it, right? Do you think that mindset has changed now, given that technology is the center of things and you need somebody equipped to manage the technology, right? So would you think that mindset changed or evolving, or yet it's been the same?
I think it is. They are not the same as what it was 5 years back. People are understanding. Okay, I think with tech, I think COVID is actually accelerated. You know, I mean, let me use my mom's example. I mean, she's on OTT. She does her online shop. Okay, I mean, 2 years back, no. I mean, if I had given a Fire Stick to her, she wouldn't have known what to do with that. Okay, but I mean, she uses iPad as well as anybody else, right? I mean, people have adapted to it. I think I was actually talking to a friend this morning where I was stating that, look, I was in the mall the other day. Okay, and I'm double vaccinated and with my mask on for people who question what the hell we're doing in a mall. But the shops are empty, including the shopper stop. And I assume it's because over the last 18 months, many of us have got used to shopping online. We are doing our clothes shopping online. Okay, so the entire buying habits have changed completely out there. Okay, so I think now going back to what you're asking, it's very important to have a team who knows how to use the system. I think what owners are starting to realize, okay, I wouldn't say realize, is that technology helps them to have a leaner team. Okay, it doesn't cut out their team completely. Technology helps them to have a leaner team, and the right technology also helps that leaner team to focus on a lot of other strategic things, because the basic work is actually automated. Okay, which is what technology is helping out there. And I think that is what technology is helping. And yeah, there is a lot of education when we, as technology providers, you guys would have to do to owners, and maybe as a lot of revenue leaders or marketing leaders, they would have to convince that there is convincing that will happen. But I think technology is also becoming cheaper, right? It is not as expensive or as complicated as what it was a couple of years back. I think one very interesting statement I saw, and I don't know the exact number, but I just read this a couple of days back, which kind of threw me into this entire thing of how consumer behavior is changing and why we need to adopt technology. Was, I think in India, in as recent as 5 years back, before Jio launched, the average consumption of data per month was less than 1 GB, and we are paying around about I don't know, $160 a GB or something. Today it's down to 1/10 of that price. And the consumption has gone up 100-fold. And I think it's driven by all of us out here. I think everyone is talking technology. Everyone is used to understanding how the right technology can help you micro target your customers with the right strategies. You can't do that without technology.
Absolutely. And when you spoke about internet, it took me to the days of when speeds were calculated in KBs and not MBs, and soon now we'll be moving to GBs. While we're on strategy, so Ellie, strategy overall and flexibility, right? Ram spoke and outlined at being agile. How's the approach of the business intel that changed at your end? Tools, processes, the focus, the perspective, the metrics, right? How were they all factored into business strategy in general?
Sure. Well, thanks for the question, Karan. Well, by the way, I think Ram has got a really deep understanding on the technology. He actually covered most of the things that I actually want to discuss during this session. So that is really good. So, I mean, back to your questions, that we are all actually discussing, there's a hospitality landscape as changing a lot. And as it changed, what I see is the BI, those business intelligence tools or technology, is also transitioning from nice to have a competitive necessity. So traditionally, BI used to focus primarily on the historical data, but now it can actually incorporate up to the real-time data, providing up-to-the-minute results on what is happening in your own hotel. So with the modern BI tools, you can actually get granular very quickly and analyze the data from the myriad of sources to provide actionable insight. So cloud-based system we actually mentioned about is also provides there's a mobile access at any time. So not only for the revenue managers, but anyone actually in the hotel can view the KPI, such as P&L or the variance difference or a budget difference and the demand forecast, occupancy ADR or revenue, you name it, in real time. So that actually allows hoteliers to make better decision based on the most up-to-date revenue and the operational information, which is really critical in the current circumstances. And the plus, looking at the modern BI tools, they also offer very multiple different reporting options, customized to meet the need of different departments. So for instance, advanced BI can track guest the information regardless of communication channels. So this information can be used by your operation team for offset or personalize a guest stay in your hotel. And also you can actually perform in-depth analysis to see the guest spam patterns or booking patterns or production per selling channels or production per room types, etc., which is also very valuable information or data for your marketing team so that they can actually design those campaigns that will achieve the highest conversion. So with a BI's broad perspective of your business data, you can each department working separately and independently. And as we actually cover all together, those BI tool will give you the ability to tie those departments and metrics together into one overall business strategy. And fundamentally, it will actually change the way how your hotel actually competes in the marketplace.
Absolutely. So
maybe I'll just chip in there, right?
Murphy, you're on mute.
Sorry, I'll just chip in there in terms of, we speak about the hospitality industry being technology conservative. But as Ram and the others on the panel also specifically mentioned, right, the last year or the couple of years has brought in a digital transformation, as we may call it. But the more important aspect is that, look, I perceive it as two-way. In terms of the technology conservativeness, one, are the technology companies willing to come up with a new product? And typically when they would come out into the market when there are early adopters and people who are willing to use that, right? And that's a change that we've seen over the last couple of years. And that's why you would see companies like, I wouldn't name us here, but we've been really adventurous and let's say strong in terms of the number of enhancements that you come through, the number of new tools that you bring into the market, because the requirement, as Ellie also rightly pointed out in the market at this point of time, is for surfacing out those levels and trends that we see, the data as all that we just mentioned, right? Surfacing out the important elements that we as revenue strategists should be looking into quickly and fastly. And I think that's one of the road breaks that has always been there in terms of technology adoption across the market. So it's more of an education, and also the last couple of years has largely enhanced the way that this comes up quick and fast and easy and cheaper as well. Let's put it that way.
Absolutely. And like Ellie and Murphy both said, right? So Ellie brought about the BI not just being a slice and dice, but the way I would put it, it's the glue that brings all the ancillary streams and departments together under one roof, where you can then visualize what your actual metrics are. And moving forward from bringing everyone together is one of my favorite topics, total revenue management, right? And I'll move to Karishma because Karishma, you're now also in the finance vertical of things along with revenue management. So I would like to ask you, right? What's the, again, is this still a vision or some form of reality? I know it's some form of reality because you're piloting it out there, but yep, TRM and ancillary streams impetus in the industry, right? Are we there yet, or are we yet 5 years or 3 years away from looking at it as a reality?
Karan, it's interesting because this question comes up in every forum. But I must say that the answer is a little different this time, because I remember 2 years back when we brought this up, we would say TRM is about, a cultural mindset shift. Everyone needs to come on the same table. And you know what, with the pandemic, hey presto, everybody's actually on the same table. So, the mindset shift that we were talking about, it's actually happened. But now I think what needs to come in there, if I would just like to add on to what Ram and Ellie said, is that we need the right technology and the right tools. And if I look at how traditional revenue management evolved, like all of us, probably people like me and Ram, we started off with analyzing Excel sheets of our room business and build forecasts and pricing. Today, honestly, no one has that kind of time. We have to be fast, and we have to be furious, and we have to really, really react very quickly if we want to, whether it's taking out a new promotion or a new strategy or a way to increase ancillary spend, who do we target? We need data at our fingertips like this. So what we really need is now a fabulous system which talks to all our other systems, pulls out the data and tells us, look, this is customer X. This is what they spent on your room. This is what they spent, in your coffee shop. This is what they spent in your spa. Therefore, this kind of customer is best suited to these kind of products, So I know that there are certain CRM tools in the marketplace today, but that's just a starting point. What we really need is a 360 kind of a tool that covers resident guests, non-resident guests, because we've seen the power of non-resident revenue in the last 1.5 years. Like I said, all of us literally survived off of that. Now to build the trends around that and then to marry the two and then to have like this master dashboard, like a SpaceX, I can see everything in one go. How's my business moving and how do I make it move faster? This is the need of the hour, in my opinion. This is what we need. And what Murphy said, and I am putting on a finance hat now, because the way the industry has kind of been through such a rough ride, we need something that is not super expensive. It can be quickly adopted and deployed like that. And I think that is the next big step to total revenue management really rolling out. But I see the way the pace of innovations happening, I think it's a matter of time, probably maybe a year or so down the line. Maybe ideas can come back to us with a really sweet product and say, look, we've got all of this, all that you wanted, all your bag of goodies in one place. So anyway, I think that's one. And I would also say that, why restrict total revenue management to just the top line? I think it's a great time to even sort of look at your forecasts on costs, your variable costs. How's that going to change? Because ultimately it is about the bottom line. If there's no bottom line, there's no survival. So, also look at forecasting cost management, and therefore your EBITDA and your profitability per asset. So which means per hotel, that's the kind of visibility that we need in today's time.
Absolutely. So what I feel from you is that we are there. It's the technology that is missing at the present moment to really just take us over the wall. And I'm sure, Ram, you would also have a couple of thoughts because this is the close topic to you as well. Are you in the same boat? Do you feel that, yes, we as an industry are ready?
First thing is, I think next year the session should be called Fast and Furious. So, I'm going to play Vin Diesel, though I look like I might not look like him, but I'm taking the role out there.
Ram, that's my favorite series too. So yes, I'm thinking that.
I'm sure we'll start seeing that in one of your video streams as well, right?
I know.
No, I think, look, I agree with Karishma. I mean, she's covered this pretty well out there. I think, as total revenue management, we've been speaking about this for a lot of, I don't know, for a long time. I mean, look, I did the first total revenue management experiment with Excel sheets in 2001. Okay, so that kind of tells you we 20 years back we tried this. Okay, and we're still trying to do it. At that point of time, we did total revenue management because we wanted to make more money because the rooms are already optimized. Today we are doing total revenue management because we want to make more money because the rooms is not making any money. Okay. That's the only difference. Okay, but yeah, total revenue management has existed. And I know we've been as an industry talking about, hey, you know what, let's talk about TRevPAR, let's talk about GoPAR and whatever parts. But yeah, we don't have the tools still in place. Okay, as an industry, we've been talking about all of this. And I think Karishma hit it very proud. You know what, there's a lot of wish list that we have with regards to segmenting customer. We talk about, hey, you know what, I mean, I think you made that point, Murphy, about how Netflix is used. You know, it kind of recommends your next particular movies you want to watch, right? On some nights, it's a no-brainer on the next series you want to watch or the next movies you want to watch. I mean, is there a tool available for us to know what can we recommend to that customer who's been using certain products in our hotel? I mean, it's not that you need to recommend only F&B to a person who's been using fine dining. Maybe you can recommend a spa. You know, they are the kind of people who would use your spa. A coffee shop guy might not end up using your spa. Okay, maybe there is something else you can recommend to them. That's only going to maximize the scope of revenue out there. So whenever you guys make this tool, please ensure that Karishma and me get our royalty out there. And again, taking off on one of Murphy's terminology, make it a subscription-based model. Okay, you spoke about subscription-based model, so make it a subscription-based model out there. And I think one important thing, I think I will wear the finance manager hat out here and say that, you know what, more than total revenue management, I think total asset management is the need of the hour, because there is a lot of assets. We spoke about that hotel, and I just Googled up to remember what that hotel is. So it's called Aveda in Kerala, AVEDA. So actually, you know what, they have optimized that swimming pool as an asset, right? So I think total asset management is the need of the hour more than total revenue management, because that's where we are going to be making more money out there. And it's also important at the same time, because I made this statement a couple of times in the previous conference as well. I think ultimately the success of total revenue management doesn't rest with the revenue manager or with the director of sales or with the director of marketing. It actually only can be achieved with the revenue culture, you know, right from that person at the front desk, right from that the team in the restaurant, you know, that they need to understand the importance of every additional upsell that they are doing, how it contributes to the bottom line of the hotel, you know. So that revenue culture is very important. And I think as revenue managers, I think another hat that we all need to maybe wear out there would be the trainer's hat, because it is up to us to implement this revenue culture across the hotel.
Absolutely. You hold on to those points on staffing and training, because I will get to those. What I want to ask also from you, Ram, is now budgeting, right? How has it changed over the last year? Reforecasting challenges, how they overcome, and especially now when you talk about asset management, taking into account different streams of revenue. So how does that all account to budgeting and the troubles that come along with budgeting?
I think that's been one of the most difficult exercises, and I'm sure that the people who are budgeting for multiple markets definitely agree with me on that point, because I think it's been one of the most craziest year, because I think every year we had external factors, you know, which was impacting budgets, but none like this time around. You know, the kind of impact external factors had on your budgets was actually tremendous. I mean, Jan, Feb, March, India was on the right path, and suddenly you had April, May, June, where India unfortunately collapsed. I mean, look at a country like Israel. You know, Israel was a rock star, which was trending all the way high, and suddenly the next wave has just hit in Israel, and Israel is suddenly seeing a big dip. No one forecasted that in sitting in July. You didn't forecast a bad August for Israel, right? So I think. So what I'm saying out here is I think there's no blanket recommendation or prediction, but the markets are, in my opinion, very dynamic, just like our stock markets today are. So business markets are also going to be extremely dynamic, and I think it will continue like this until that baseline period is formed, which I'm hoping that, you know, by the end of this winter, hopefully we might start seeing some kind of baseline trends forming. But at least between the last time and this time, one thing we have in place is, you know, you're kind of able to map the first wave to the second wave, even though the recovery has been way much faster in this second time. So I think you can still use those trends, right, with a much by putting in whatever algorithms you want to accelerate recovery out here. So I think even now your budgeting, in my opinion, needs to be something that is reviewed every month for the next 90 days. So you need to have a short-term forecasting and a long-term budget, which is what you are working towards. And maybe you need to have that trial and error process with maybe multiple scenarios. You know, this is what the forecast is in normal circumstances, but this is what my forecast is should you know, the rider of the COVID wave happen, because no one knows when the next wave is coming in. We are all unfortunately restricted by too many regulations by the government, and it varies across states. And I know because Karishma might be facing the same challenge, Krishna might be facing the same challenges, because every state has a different rule. Okay, if you want to, I mean, if you want to go holiday from here to Himachal, maybe you have to actually go up and find out what is the notification, you know, even though it's a driving destination. So I think that is the kind of things which is impacting it. So I think maybe 3 months back, 4 months back, I'd have said, hey, you know what, it's zero-based forecast or zero-based budget we need to look at. I don't think we are in that situation. But yep, yes, definitely a situation where we need to have our budgets run two kind of things. And more important is in these forecasts, which I believe is more important today because 90-day forecasts are, I mean, it was always important, but I think it's all the more important in today's time. And I think that's where, monitoring your competition, understanding what your pickup by segment, by trends has been, what your competition performance has been by segment, thanks to, you have reports out there in the market. I'm not going to name the reports. The revenue managers know the reports that I'm talking, which helps them understand the forward pickups out there and demand. I think with forward and demand, I've named the products out there, and understand when is there a rise happening in long-term business, and set off from there. So I think that's the area with regards to budgeting and forecast. Budgeting still, I think there is going to be a lot of riders attached to it, but I think forecasting we might be able to get it a little bit more accurate today than what we might have been able to do 4 months back.
Absolutely. So things are steadying down. You're getting a baseline. And sticking on with forecast, I'll move on to Ellie. Ellie, so what are your thoughts and identifying rising trends and capitalizing on them? What are your positives that you've seen in the region?
I mean, luckily we actually started seeing positive signs already, this month. So as per the recent industry reports, a lot of countries, including Maldives and Singapore and China, South Korea, are now largely reopened. And as we actually talk about those vaccination rollouts, so those numbers are actually increasing across the regions. So for instance, in Singapore, it's more than 80% of the population is now fully vaccinated. So I see those small ones also actually quite positive signs here. And also from technology perspective, I mean, I see the mobile technology actually emerging a lot. The mobile apps actually has been tested and proven in the industry quite a long time. But the reason why I'm actually mentioning it here again is particularly because a lot of hotels and the resorts are now more actively actually leveraging mobile platform. So they're actually using those platform for their guest loyalty or cross-selling or the marketing programs, etc. So I believe currently, new trends in the technology industry actually for the hotel is a mobile application for the hotel is actually a really must have, to prepare for the new normal.
Absolutely, super. And thank you. So I know we've had an engaging time. We were almost 5 minutes to time. I have a couple of more questions, and I'll direct this to Trishna. Trishna, so what about RMS? Have you yet been required to sell an importance of an RMS to the boards and execs again? I know this is a little on from what you'd already discussed with Ram, but what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, in Marriott, we've got a homegrown RMS, right? And we've had it for years. To be honest, I think we still need to sell it to most stakeholders because, and especially in today's situation, because we're back to basics, right? We're, like Karishma said, we're at ground zero right now. And the only way up, the only way from here is up. So the first question that comes is, what's the need for it? Because we know for a fact that we're going to go up. But I think the most important thing here to understand is there's a lot more to an RMS than meets the eye. I think the capabilities that we can't do humanly is what we expect from an RMS, right? Forward-looking trends, recent past trends, identifying anomalies, looking at competition, information, and like Ram mentioned, data is oil. I think everything pre-COVID as well, data was important, but I think the importance of that data today is just a lot more than it ever was, simply because we don't have any baseline to compare with. So I think, overall, it gives you a well-rounded perspective of what we're getting into, what changes we need to make to strategy. So I think there is a lot more acceptance, but the way we believe today that data is important and we need a lot more investment in technology, I think that still will take a little bit of time in terms of our stakeholders and owners, because while they want the work to be done and while they want all the analysis and paralysis to be done, cost is key right now. In the current situation, I think everyone's only looking at how to get the work done in the most cost-efficient way. So there is some amount of selling that it takes, but I'm sure over time, and especially next year, once things start to improve and start to pick up, it'll get a little easier.
My next question, I would have directed that to either Karishma or Ram, but they've already given us their wish list. So what is your ask from an RMS or a BI tool?
I think, like the two of them mentioned as well, I think I'll echo the same sentiment. A couple of things additionally, I think accuracy of information. There's so much of ad hoc business that is coming into our hotels today. So I think it's very important for us to have accuracy of information to capture those new segments and eventually make sure that they are converted into a sustainable and long-term strategy. Like I said, forward-looking trends, for me specifically, if I were to give you an example of what I handle, it's so important for me to get a macro perspective because each of the hotels is based in different sub-markets. So to kind of break that down into different hotels, different sub-markets, different brands, I think it just helps to get all of that kind of data, flexibility to customize, look at occupancies of competition, lead time, length of stay. So I think just continuous improvements based on how trends are changing, keeping in time with the trend, changing those algorithms to make sure that we've got a lot more forward-looking data to be able to customize it, to be able to access it wherever you are on the go. Connectivity to other data points, like Ellie mentioned, I think bringing all of the important and critical departments together and functions together so that you get that rounded perspective and you're able to change your strategy before you actually get into that situation rather than, reacting to it.
Absolutely. So something that is intuitive, real time, and
Yes.
the source and the center of your organization. That is what I would really look at, right? So
Absolutely.
everything filters in there. And so that's great. That's pretty much on the lines, on the wish list, as what I would call it when we speak to our product as well. And now I move to the last segment of this, and this is where it's around staffing, right? It's the whole circle. We spoke about strategy, brand image. We spoke about revenue management, and now looking at staffing. And then there were a couple of points that were really bought on. So Ram, let's straight off the bat to Ram, right? The scenario in India, like you said, right? It's different in here as compared to the Americas or the EMEAs when it comes down to talent availability, right? How do we cope with that challenge here in terms of seasoned, skilled, experienced staffing?
I think one thing for sure out there, and thanks for shooting that first bullet off my shoulder. I think one thing is for sure. I mean, we had a lot of good talent. We've lost a lot of good talent in this COVID period as an industry, and I think we have lost many of them in the forever to other industries. There are good people who have left this particular industry and moved on to other industries because of the impact that COVID has had on their jobs. And I think it's very important for hotels to realize now more than ever to, how can they retain the existing talent? Because when business will come back, there is a very small set of people left behind. Okay. And it's very important for hotels to retain them and for organizations to retain them, and also how to attract the people back. Because the industry has unfortunately got some kind of bad reputation in this particular scenario. I mean, we got to be honest in that out here. What also has led to it is as revenue managers, we are jack of all trades. But since we have a lot of ladies on this panel, we are Jill of all trades. Jack or Jill of all trades, and just master of one, which is revenue management. So as a revenue manager, you are expected to be a data analyst. You are still expected to do your marketing stuff. You are expected to maybe do finance stuff like Karishma is out here. You are expected to, in some cases, take care of the front office. So it's you're doing a lot of stuff, and actually it's not just revenue managers. I know general managers who are making beds and serving in restaurants. So I think that is, as an industry, we are going through this. It's been a great learning experience. That's how I look at it, because I personally have got a lot of experience in areas which weren't my forte maybe 18 months back. But I think, again, going back to what we spoke about, I think, reliance on technology can help. The right technology, can help with a smaller set of stuff, and of course lead to more efficiency with automation. For lack of a better thing, a simple interface, can help with rate management and with reservations flowing in. You can hopefully manage with a smaller reservation team if you have a two-way interface running. I'm just putting a very simple system, not even talking revenue management systems here. But one thing to also understand right now is, if it's a smaller team, it means, and you expect that smaller team to multitask, it means more training. Otherwise, there is going to be a direct impact on operational efficiency. So if you're working with a smaller team, it's important to invest a lot more on training. From the international market, I think what has happened in the international market is there is a lot of changes that has happened in the immigration policies across countries. Okay, especially to protect the local work out there. So that's kind of making it difficult for them to employ foreign workers. And plus the ongoing impact of COVID, I think, is a definite threat on staffing levels. So, they are not looking at outside the country team members joining them right now. So that is definitely there. What we are also seeing is, and which is why, we have this arm called the PHG Consulting. It's not a plug, but basically, what we've seen is there's a lot of hotels in the US and Europe. They've started to outsource some of the key roles like revenue for hire, like sales strategy, like marketing and PR, etc., to consultancy divisions, which is why we actually entered into the consultancy business as well out there, because it was something that we realized is the need of the hour. And and I think not just us, but a lot of relevant consultancy players across have seen some very good success, both in terms of helping the hotels stand back on their feet faster because of the lack of right resources on ground. Okay, it's actually bigger. The challenge is bigger in US, as you guys would know, because you are reading equally the same thing. What labor is difficult to find, and the cost has gone up, right, for people. So it is going to somewhere hit us back in India. But I think it's very important that when we start hiring people back and we start bringing people back, a lot of investment is done on training and adapting them to the new normal that's going to be there in 22.
Absolutely. So what I take away from that is retention, training and grooming your staff and your employees so that they stick on and they take on the new challenges that come along with it. And there's obviously technology to aid you in that journey as well. And with that, I will call it wraps for today. I would really love to engage and continue on, as we know this is a never-ending conversation, but then yes, we're constrained on time here. And with that, I will hand it over to Murphy to do the closing ceremony. And thank you, panelists, for your time and your lovely inputs. Very insightful. It was great to engage with each one of you.
Thank you so much, Karan. I think I should say thanks for a fast and furious session.
Yeah. I mean, we would love to go on talking, right? There are so many questions on the Q&A as well that I would love to answer and get the panelists to think and answer as well. But yeah, unfortunately, we would have to call it because I think we were already 6 minutes over time. But I must say that it has been a great and an insightful session. A lot to ponder, and definitely makes me feel secure about, not just secure about the industry, but also about its future. And to all the panelists who had those wish lists, right? You would soon get to hear from, some of us. I wouldn't say who, right? So yeah, but before we sign off, right? Once again, a big shout out to all the panelists who took time out to share their vision with us. Last but not the least, all the audience as well across the globe. We saw them trickle in through as well. Thank you for being with us today. You've been extremely interactive with a string of questions that you have. Don't worry, we'll come back to you with those answers as well, along with the recordings that we are going to share as we move through towards the coming week. So have a nice evening, lunch, or the end of the day, wherever you are. I'm sure, Ellie, it's almost dinner time for you now. So until we meet next time, and hopefully, like I said, maybe in person sometime soon. So thank you. Here's there, signing off now.
Thanks, everyone. Ciao, stay safe.
Thank you. Thanks, Murphy. Thanks, Karan.
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you, everyone.